I am a man with many enemies.
The elevator opens for no one.
The Boston Red Sox.
And plans on making me.
The mayor of Boston. The governor of Massachusetts.
I'm paralyzed into you.
Boston Globe.
And plans on making me.
It's a war.
And plans on making me.
We're going to battle it out.
All sit there,
Everyone looks like
won't learn a fucking thing.
My dick's so big, doesn't even matter. He's 2 feet tall.
And nobody will get in trouble. Now, of course, everybody's gonna kill each other after watching.
He's gonna fucking open his mouth, it'll fall right in.
Just too busy to accept it.
And it is going to be, when it's done, the most successful podcast in the history of mankind.
And we already met.
Listen, there's only one Minihane show.
Everyone looks like everyone.
It's right here.
And plans on making me. And plans on making me.
No protection.
Rolling.
And we are back for a special, super special Quantum Kirk. We are joined by the man himself, Kirk Minahan, to do his favorite episode. I think you've said that before, which is Cullen. So, yeah. Kirk, thank you so much for coming on and taking time out of your day to do this with us.
Sure. Thank you, guys. Just wrapped up here on Wednesday, I guess it would be. So, yeah, no, of course. Yeah. Well, let's get into it. I don't, it's funny because it's an episode I definitely remember. We were talking about it on the show today, like best of this year or that year. And there's specific episodes I remember parts of some stuff. But this episode I remember only because it's the one that I actually wrote the entire episode. So, for sure, I remember this one and sort of the controversy around it. So, yeah, no, it's definitely my favorite one.
All right. So, Kirk, if you don't mind, we start off every episode with Danny listing the name of the episode and the date. So, Danny, why don't you kick us off?
Absolutely. And Kirk, thank you for joining us. Dave, thanks for throwing it over to me. Of course, it's called Cullen, and this is from April 30th, 2020.
Well, you said you didn't, but what if I minded, though? I said I mind. So, you didn't really why
scratch that.
Why did you ask me, Dave, or if I mind? Obviously, you didn't care if I minded.
He just went on.
Yeah, right. I mean, just like, why even? What's this exercise? I don't mind. No, that's fine. It's fine. What was the date, Danny?
That was April 30th, 2020.
2020. Yeah, we are talking peak
COVID.
Peak COVID. I went up to Maine. Well, go ahead. I don't want to get into it. So I mean, I do, but you guys steer the ship, and I'll try to do best I can.
So we do have one clip to maybe kick us off, just to sort of set the tone. It's kind of Cullen's creed. We don't have to do a bunch of clips, but I thought this one sort of just brings people back into the moment. So, Andrew, if you don't mind hitting clip number 1 there.
I thought you taught me how to be a journalist. You really showed me how not to be one. The world would end before Cullen ever put himself at the scene when he wasn't there. Cullen would never use the tragedy of others to make him look heroic. Cullen doesn't have inconsistent timelines because he sticks to the easiest thing to remember. The truth. Cullen don't evade tough questions other journalists might have for him. He's accountable. Cullen ain't the story. You don't see him tackling TV cameras for attention. You know what? I can still smell the newspaper from the morning of November 12th, 1976. I can taste it when I drive by a diner. I can see it when I bump into people who have survived bureaucracy and still have thriving restaurants, which happens with more regularity than I could have ever expected. And I can touch it. I grab their hands or their shoulders. Without that story, I'm probably a cop, a fireman, a boxing trainer. I'd be good at all of those, but I'm the best at this. I'm everything you aren't. I guess I can thank you for that.
So what now? Do we?
There you go. That was
so I think the first question I have, Kirk, and if we try to do this for people that are new fans of yours, like, that don't want to start like Coleman's doing from episode 1 and go all the way through, like highlight episodes.
Yeah.
Why did you? Who is Kevin Cullen? Why did you hate him so much? Was it just a Boston Globe thing, or did you just feel like he was a liar from the articles that you were reading all the time? I guess if you don't mind starting there.
I don't mind. So Cullen wrote for the Globe. He was a columnist, right, for the Globe in the Metro section. And for years, I remember being at EEI in the morning and reading him and saying to Jerry Callahan, my old partner, like this is a very, like, everything, he always comes out looking great. Like, things are very, very coincidental. They're very easy. Things get solved very quickly in Cullen's world. And I always thought of him as like a barnacle. I didn't really care. We would make jokes about it on the show very occasionally. But then something happened with Lou Merloni and us and the Globe. I forget. And Cullen went after Lou, went after us. He was like, "You guys are assholes." And at that point, I was like, "Well, at some point, we're going to get this guy." And then the morning of the 5-year anniversary of the bombing, which would have been 2018, I guess. I remember Chris Curtis would give us the papers in the morning. He looked at me. He's like, he was smiling. He's like, "We've got something really good with Cullen." And Cullen made up that he was at the finish line of the marathon bombings that day and had this whole story, which I kind of referenced in that thing.
Yep.
And then we took him down. Like it was just a Curtis and I, masterclass. I wrote a long column at EI.com. We did days of it on the radio. The Globe, who hates me, obviously, had to suspend him. And they did, and they kept him off TV. And he's never really been the same. He's still at the Globe. So at that point, and I just like the idea that Cullen always fashioned himself as like a tough guy, as like a dream. Like in his own mind, he was almost like he's like the one good guy in a corrupt town. Like he was going to fix everything. And I just liked it. And like, cause he would say things like that, Tommy Donahue, Jesus Christ, just the lines like that were just always funny to me. The idea of Cullen was always very funny to me. So I always in my mind thought that Cullen thought he was a star of his own TV show. So I wanted to at one point do that. So that's, what we did.
So you kind of touched on that too. So if you don't, I would say
I don't mind.
So I'll stop saying that. I'll stop saying that.
Well, so at some point, but go ahead.
So you touched on that with like Eddie, which was a great episode of Dog Walk. I want to compliment. I know Julie said that today too. It was unbelievable. Yeah. I learned stuff about you that I kind of didn't know. So you spoke about being in LA and writing for Tops. What you didn't get in with Eddie was being like a screenwriter. Yeah. Is that? I think you've talked about that before. Were you out in LA to be like, were you trying to do TV and movie scripts and stuff?
Totally. Failed completely. Which almost statistically everybody does. But yeah, I had a buddy of mine I wrote stuff with. So yeah, that was to do that muscle, to exercise that muscle again was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Yeah. So what happened was in 2020, this was pandemic, like peak pandemic time, obviously April 2020. Like Steve was like, biggest pandemic pussy alive. Like for this guy now, he was like washing down the studio. He was like, it was pathetic. He was like a bubble.
He wanted to go remote, if I remember correctly.
Oh, he did. And I was like, you can go remote if you want, but Mike didn't care. And I didn't care. I was like, we're doing the show from, I don't think, I'm not going to say all, I'm not going to say, but not many shows throughout the entire pandemic. We did a show after Magnolia where we all had COVID in the studio. We walked around, walking around with fucking COVID. But anyway, so I went up to Maine. It was just actually me and Harry for a weekend. And we went and we wrote, I wrote the entire Cullen episode over like 2 days. And it was like probably 25 pages of just dialogue, sort of direction. I still have it somewhere. And sent it over to Steve. And I said, let's start thinking of people to play because it were kind of like a lot of roles. So yeah, so we kind of did that, and I just had a good time. It was just funny to me to write, like, of course Cullen would have like a woman who was in love with him, and like he can't commit, like he just can't do it, like all these women out there, all these dames, but he's never going to
Chili.
And the IRA is going after him, and the Globe hates him. Like everyone's going. I just thought it was a very funny concept. So I mean, I had a ball writing it.
Now, when you're writing it, are you like, do you have specific people in mind to play it, or you're just like, oh, we're going to start picking? And did you leave that up to Steve? Were you involved in that at all?
No, I had, I was definitely involved in it. I had Mike in mind for that part he played. I didn't know we wanted to use Steve's wife for the girlfriend. We never filmed it. He just recorded her separately with me. And then we just kind of started. I had Mayo in mind for that wormy. He played McGrory, right? Didn't he play? He played like a Globe guy, basically.
He just played on screen with us.
What's that?
John played McGrory.
Oh, John played McGrory. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
But Mayo was perfect casting for that. Oh, it's too much money.
At the headquarters of the Boston Globe, Cullen's bosses are conspiring against him.
Boston Globe, how may I help you?
Linda and I have had many late meetings over this subject.
The ones I watched in that other room?
No. Here's the thing. Cullen is too dangerous for a newspaper in this era. He's a legal risk every time. His methods of obtaining the truth are from a different time. And these expenses...
More than any 5 reporters put together. That is insane. Is he a great writer? Yes. Is he a great reporter? Sure, a legend. But I think he costs us money, and I have to look at it like dollars and cents. He's a maverick, and we're lucky he hasn't been in a lawsuit that crippled the paper. Just today, we got a request from him for 24-hour protection for some anonymous source with no explanation given. Who knows what that could be? Brian, your thoughts?
Well, I just find this extraordinary. How dare you come in here and lecture me, on newspapers? I've been doing this since you were playing in the sandbox at your summer home. Cullen is this paper. Cullen truly represents what we are all about. He's not some statistic, something that can be valued on a spreadsheet, and I'll be damned if you let him go. I'll sit here until we both die before.
Brian, you asked me to let you know when the intern candidates arrived.
Gotta go. Talk later.
Yeah, because it was peak like Mayo being like a bitchy
annoying.
guy. Yeah, so that was funny. And then Harry plays the little kid.
Yep.
And Kate plays like she has an Irish accent. She plays the IRA guy's like mom or what. She has like one line in it. She has like an Irish
See,
accent.
I didn't know that. All right. Thank you.
Oh, the beginning.
She's in it. So yeah, we had so sort of stuff like that. But I mean, I don't know how many speaking parts there are. And then we did the commercials. So it was like a pretty big endeavor. Like I remember like we were pretty wiped out by the end of it, which was pretty funny.
Yeah, there were a couple that I caught. The couple I didn't recognize, but we had Jerry's uncle, Blind Mike's groupie, I believe, was in there. Of course, Mayo, as you mentioned, Steve's wife, John. BA has a line.
Yeah. Yep. No, he's just standing in front of his car. Just looking at a house. Yes, I got it.
A little bit of Carano.
Yep. Carano and Clemmer are gay in that. Because
they're gay, they're running buddies. Carano's gay, and it's sort of
Cullen has like a younger gay brother, right?
Yes.
Mind if I run with you? It goes by faster when you don't do it alone.
Not at all. I agree. Hey, you're good. How many miles a week do you run?
25, 30 just about?
Same.
Maybe we should be partners. I mean, running partners.
Maybe.
Hey, I'm Doug Carano. What's your name?
Brett.
No last name. Are we not there yet?
It's Cullen. I'm Brett Cullen.
Did you say Cullen?
Yeah, why?
Well, for a second, I thought you said Cullinane. I mean, I dated a guy with that name once. Total zero. But you're the first Cullen I've ever met.
You have no idea how much I like hearing you say that.
Yes, you use your brother as like a prop right there, no?
In what way?
Because you have him. No, like you say Cullen's brother, living in the legend of living in the shadow of a legend, has to move 3,000 miles away to get away from the legend. So I'm assuming you're talking around Ryan.
Ryan wasn't in Oregon yet at the time, so he
moved.
All right. No. Though I did think my brother, unfortunately, we lost one of my brothers a couple of years ago. He passed away, but he kind of had this thing where he had like this looming shadow of me. So that was definitely an inside joke a little bit. Yeah, at the time for sure. Yeah. That's right. That is true.
So I believe we have another special guest, Steve Robinson. Can you hear us, Steve?
His camera's all blacked out. He's hiding from those Chinese nationalists.
He's gone with him. As good as ever. He's not working, Gus. He's got no power, right?
Yeah, I don't think he's there, Danny.
All right, don't worry about it now, Gus. We'll get him later. Go ahead.
Danny, go ahead. You have a couple questions there you want to go with?
Yeah. So I think one of the scenes that really got me was, I believe, Ned Snark playing Vic Jacobs, the boxer.
Oh yeah, right.
And he's the one that starts. So of course, for those of you that haven't listened to the episode, Tim and Canton's character is actually pretty hilarious because he basically plays the real world Cullen, whereas the Cullen in the episode is the one who's crusading and telling the truth. And Tim and Canton's just, totally mailed it in, and it started with him lying about the results of the hot dog eating contest.
Oh, right. He has an inside name.
Irving Tomington. I was going to ask you about that. Who is that?
Irving Thomaston. Thomas is a town in Maine. They're like, yeah. That's right. Yes, yeah. Right. Jesus, I couldn't listen. I can't listen to my own voice, so I couldn't go back and listen to it. But
Even with that accent?
Even with that
I was about to say, it's not really you.
No, that's true. Even with that accent. Yeah. Yeah. But I also like the idea that everybody, like nobody would know who the fucking a columnist for the Globe is, but like everybody was always like, "Oh my God, you're him!" Like it's really you. Like I always thought,
really you.
when Cullen would go to bed at night, I always thought that's what Cullen would think about, like to get himself to sleep. Like what was, everyone just was so in awe of the stuff he did,
including Harry. Harry's like, "Oh, they teach about you in school."
Yeah, right. The idea that like in schools in like third grade they're teaching about Kevin Cullen to these kids, I thought was just but I do think Cullen kind of believed that. So. Yeah, I don't know if he ever listened to it, but yeah, maybe he did. I like to think he did.
I was going to ask you that. This must have got to him at some point, especially during the pandemic when there was nothing going on.
Yeah, I'm sure it got to him, but yeah, I don't know.
That's so did you style this
car I see in the bonnet? Jesus Christ, what's he doing? Don't put him up, Gus. Let's go.
Did you style this after like an 80s cop drama? Like Mike's listening to Quincy, watching Quincy every week right now. I feel like you did this as like a Quincy call up or something
like that. And I wanted to start it in the middle of the series. Like I think it's like season 5. It's like in the middle of the series, right? Like
yes. Season 4, episode 19, if I'm not mistaken, right. If I am correct.
Yeah, something like that, where it was in the middle of the series and like our hero is like added again. Yeah, I thought it was like a 1984 NBC show with the music, with the background, with the whole setting. Like for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Did you? I'll tell you this. Re-listening, okay. Mm-hmm. I was a little upset I didn't get an ending. Like you previewed like the next episode,
yeah.
And it's funny. So when you wrote the script for Maine, for Plymouth, excuse me.
Yeah.
Did you pick up? Like no one got to hear it, obviously. Did you pick up where you left off on this episode, or was it all brand new stuff?
Another episode in the series. Yeah, it was just,
okay.
What it was Cullen had a young so Cullen was in hiding. The IRA was going after Cullen, so they had to put him in hiding. So Steve played an FBI agent who was watching Cullen in Madawaska. They put him in a place where nobody would find him, like in these mob movies. Like, hey, let's go. We're gonna put him where nobody way up in Madawaska. But Justin, who played this guy who interned for Cullen, and worshipped him, finally found him, but then wound up getting murdered. And so Cullen had to investigate the murder because these guys in this podunk town, they couldn't figure it out, but Cullen was going to figure out who did the killing. So it was a full investigation into the kill. It was actually fucking great. I thought it was better than the first one. And Steve dies too. Steve is the FBI agent who's obsessed with library transgender people dancing at libraries in this town. So, but he dies. Justin dies, and finally we figure out that Clemmer wound up doing the killings, which we go to New York and do at the end. Cullen goes all over the place. It was great, but you couldn't hear a fucking thing. But it was not quite as long. And Mike is also in it as well. And he's one of these guys who got stuck. He plays himself. He got stuck in Madawaska after a disastrous performance in 2020 at the live show. And he just drinks at that bar all day. That's why we were there. We filmed it there. And so phenomenal. Yeah, it was very funny. It just didn't, fucking nobody could hear it, but it was. We should probably release it at some point, but like everything else, I'm sure we never will.
I've been begging for it over the holiday break, or even listen, Barstool TV. Like I know you don't want to charge me, I spent it, but I'll spend another 10 to see it, Kirk.
People paid for Plymouth. I'm not gonna rip them off twice for that sound, but yeah, at some point we'll do it.
All right, Danny, what do you got there, bud?
Do you want to hear another clip that's sort of encapsulates the whole story?
Go ahead. How long is it?
It's we'll cut it off after about 20 seconds.
Okay.
But at number 6 there, Andrew, if you could, that basically has you confronting Irv on basically how his entire career has been a lie.
Right. Jesus Christ. November 12th, 1976? The Selectman versus the Diner. I still have it. That's why I became a writer. That's why I wanted to work with you.
Maybe 10% of my stories since have been 100% genuine. Maybe. But almost all of a fake quote, fake character. Maybe I wasn't there, or maybe it didn't happen at all. But you know that. It would take an idiot or a seriously intellectually dishonest person to conclude someone would only do this once. No journalist worth anything would ever think that.
You're so cavalier about this.
I'm an old man. I get away with it. You can tell whomever you want. I really don't care. I won.
That's a fake Boston accent versus a real Boston accent right there.
Right there. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
My favorite part of your accent is you saying the number, 3, as you would say it, tree. You said it multiple times in this episode, and every single time I cracked up. Absolutely cracked up.
Cullen wouldn't have a real Boston accent. Like he went to private. Cullen like had money. The real Cullen like had money growing. He acts like he was two Cullens. Like he had like his parents divorced. Like he had like a house in Southie. I think he had like a nice place in Malden and went to like private schools and ran cross country. Like it was sort of that thing.
So he's Leonardo DiCaprio from The Departed.
Correct. Yeah, and he thinks that too. Like, where he was like in the mob and the Irish. So I always think he'd mess things up like that. Like yeah, I'll meet you over there at like 3:00 or something. That kind of thing. And it's just like I grew up in Winchester where nobody talked. My parents had accents like that, but I didn't. So yeah.
How much of the production side of it were you there when Steve's cutting this all together, or was he just
great question?
0.0. I handed it all over to Steve.
He wrote it in.
Yeah, I heard it before, but we did it all. I read all my stuff here. Mike read all his stuff right in his seat. I remember that, watching him do it, and because he didn't have a lot, but he had some lines.
Good.
He did.
He was Eddie.
Well. Yeah, he was Eddie. Right.
Better than me.
And I assume you did it, John. I assume Steve just said everybody just send back your shit. I mean, it's the pandemic, so I imagine everybody just recorded their stuff on their own and sent it. I don't think anybody else was here for it. I don't think. And this is when we were doing, 5 shows a week that were like 3 hours. So.
Yeah.
So I would ask John then really quick. Holy shit. I didn't know that you guys all got it like different parts sent in. So Steve has to like put all that together.
We definitely weren't sending out the whole script to everybody.
Yeah. No, we got our lines, but it's like it's got to be tough for Steve to have put that together because people like are answering each other and he's getting 2 different recordings. So you don't know how to answer back, or you don't know how your tone of voice even is. So it was a work by Steve. I don't know how fast he put it together or what, but it was work.
It was pretty quick, John. Like, it was like I went up there. The episode was when, Dan? Like April 20th, did you say? Or
yeah,
April 27th or something.
Yeah. It was definitely like, I feel like it was like even
30th.
The kids probably weren't even in school. I don't even know what was going on with school at that point. But it was a weekend, definitely in the middle of April. So yeah, I wrote it, sent it to him, and said, just farm it out. Let's figure it out, people. And like, I always say this about the show. It's so different than any other show. There is definitely no other podcast on the planet that would do a show like this and incorporate listeners of the show as characters in this fucking thing. Like, it was just wild. It was. And I get some people didn't like it. I totally get that. But like I said at the time, I don't care. Like, we took a swing. Like, a lot of people liked it. A lot of people hated it. And I think people expect the same show every day. And it's kind of like, well, this is one fucking show of literally 800. So like, why, we should do more of it. And I see people say, why don't you do more of it? The truth is we just did one a couple of months ago. It just, nobody could fucking hear it. But we'll do more. I want to do more stuff like that.
I was a little confused about the backlash. Like, I get it. If people didn't like it, it was like, so what? You've got 5 other shows that week or 4 other shows that week.
Well, it's the same deal. It's fine. Was that
Menners hated it. Like, it's like polarizing Menners episode. He was like, he hates everything Cullen though. So it's like,
right. Yeah, I get that. So it's also the show. It's interesting now. Like, we're almost 4 years removed from it. Cullen's like a harder explained. Like, April of 2020, a lot of the audience was still
EI
audience who got that. Whereas now, I mean, the truth is, like, it's just not like the audience. No, I know for a fact there's still a bunch of people who listen to the old show and have listened to the show since day one. There's also a bunch of people who have no idea who Kevin Cullen is because we don't talk about it much anymore. Same with EI, not really. So like, I get it, but like, yeah, so we'll see. It was actually good at the live show too, because I think we did the Cullen, which nobody could hear, but it was fun to hear No Exit 4 play. Which one did they play? Bad Company, I think.
Bad Company. Yep.
That was the intro.
That was kind of funny. Yeah, and the intro to the actual podcast episode. I remember really liking about. I was laughing when I wrote like he breaks. Was it rules, bones, and hearts?
I have it written down. I only break 3 things. Rules, bones, and stories.
Stories. Oh, it should be hard. Maybe stories. Yeah,
I want that in a tattoo.
That's right. I had to write that down. It made me audibly laugh, really, really loud. That was great.
And Steve was super into it because it definitely like triggered like Steve, obviously like me, was super into Cullen. That's kind of how we got to know each other, was through the Cullen story. That's how I went on Howie's show with Steve. So it was kind of a full circle thing. I think he enjoyed it.
Listening back to when like Cullen would like you guys broke that story, you were super proud of the producer at that point in time. You were thrilled with Curtis.
With Curtis did a great job. Like I've always said that. Like, he's a worm now, but like he did a great. Like he was very into that and worked very hard. And we couldn't believe it. Like we were breaking news live, like during the show, during breaks, I'd be out talking to like firemen who were like, I never talked to this guy ever about this. We go back. This is during like radio breaks, like 6-minute breaks. I'd come back on, but I just talked to this Sean O'Brien guy, and he's like, he's never spoke to Cullen in his life. So it was sort of full speed. Yeah, they're probably not doing much of that now.
How are you?
I remember Curtis being in a bodega interviewing people, and
that's right.
That audio going on EEI.
That's right.
How were your bosses at EEI? Did they want you guys to pursue this at the time, or were they like just leave the Globe alone? Always wondered that, because like you're a sports radio guy. Why are you breaking news, right? Like why are you trying to bring down a columnist?
I know,
maybe what they're thinking.
Enormous at that point, like enormous numbers. So it was like, and we had the backing of. I think they were just happy, like we weren't doing like anything Murchison related at that point. So but it really was, because the Globe. That was the thing. I remember talking to Shirley on the phone, and when the whole thing happened, and Shirley was like, I'm gonna like get you basically over this Cullen thing. Like that was a big reason why she did her thing. So, but yeah, they were fine with it, because it was like real. Like we were correct. And Phil Zachary, who was the GM at the time, was kind of united with us. He would come and go. He'd be into it. He'd have our back and get nervous. He had our back, I remember, at that time. So he was very much into trying to fight back against the Globe. He was in the fight back mode. So the timing was good.
I do want to point out, I hate to say this because he's like super annoying. He's going to take this. Andy Mayo was like actually really good in this. Like re-listening to this, like he was like, yeah, it sucks to say it, but like it was. I thought him and Steve.
He was born to play. He was born to play like a worm. Like he's a worm. Like that's good. That's just, I give Steve credit for me. That's just good casting. He is. He's a wormy guy. It's good, solid casting. What would you say about
college
Steve?
Boy, just worried about the books, and he's trying to fire Cullen this whole time.
Right.
Yeah, we have Steve again backstage. Andrew said he's active, so
good.
You can try to pull him in one more time.
There he is.
Steve.
Hey, what's up? Can you guys hear me?
Yep,
loud and clear.
Hey, how's it going? I'm in Rumford, Maine.
Running from the triad?
Not so much, but yeah, checking out some illegal Chinese marijuana grows and some pretty crazy flood damage right now.
Crazy motherfucker.
Can you smell the paper mill?
Yeah, focus on
yes, Rotten Rumford is smelling great. It's a great cover if you're trying to illegally grow a bunch of marijuana. It smells like assholes.
Cool.
All right, so I think one question we had for you, Steve, is when Kirk was wrote the script and then you put it together. How difficult was it to get two people's parts that were like John was saying, like you were answering back and forth? Was this a super tough edit for you, or did you find it fairly simple? I guess is the question.
I guess I kind of felt like I was in the role of the guy who's in charge of showing off the Sistine Chapel or the Statue of David. My job was easy in comparison to producing such a beautiful work of art. So when you have that kind of divine inspiration, it's really easy to just get a couple of Minifans to record something on their iPhones.
Oh God, what a great answer. It's just great. So Steve Robinson.
Yeah.
I was saying them, Steve. The truth is, I think the one we did this summer that nobody could hear might have been better.
The one, yeah. I mean, no one could hear it or see it. Actually,
right.
I think Dave Cullinane should have gone and listened to the Cullen episode again just to refresh himself on how to do something like that. But I think because of the video element and the lengths that we went to actually pull that together, yes, I think it was good. It should. I mean, I don't know. I guess you guys will probably never release it, but it should be released after all the effort that went into it.
We were just talking about that. We will at some point. We'll do it at some point. What else?
But yeah, I mean, the scene in the library, I think, is probably worth the price of admission.
Unbelievable.
So, Steve, how much was this episode inspiration for what you're doing now in real life?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, I mean, my office is the streets. Look at me. I'm out here on the road. I mean, I take all my inspiration from role models like Kevin Cullen.
It is,
but no, I would say the Cullen episode, second only to the Case in season 1. Is probably up there on my list of masterpieces. I think the Cullen episode is literally perfect.
It is very funny that we did the Cullen episode, and then like 6 months later, we were in Walhalla. That like pretending like we were like that actually is pretty funny.
It is.
I didn't even think of that.
I mean, you've done more journalistic stuff than Cullen, to be honest.
It's true.
Yeah, I think the experience doing the case probably better equipped me for what I'm doing now. Chasing down redneck meth heads in South Carolina or Chinese mafia in rural Maine. Not much difference between the two.
This is true.
That's what Cullen always said.
Steve, who was the most difficult Minifan to work with? Who's the biggest diva?
Believe it or not, there were no divas. It was actually, as much as I rag on the Minifans, everybody came together and made it pretty easy. But there were some people who just couldn't figure out how to get decent sound. I think Steve from Providence, it sounded like he was, recording his on top of a diesel tractor or something. They would just send me this totally fucking awful sound. She'd be like, "Is this okay?" No, it's not okay. Like, I'm sorry to trouble you for a minute, like recording a single sentence for this fucking podcast you love so much. But could you please find a quiet room to do this in? But by and large, people kind of came together and made it easy. It was a nice group effort.
I think this might be a dumb question, but I'm going to ask anyway. Who was John Henry? I was trying to figure it out.
I thought it was Steve. No?
I thought it was Jim Murray. Was it Jim Murray?
It was Jim Murray.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah,
that was Jim Murray. It was. Yeah, it was. That's right. Yep, that was Jim Murray.
Because he was very funny. I think he has a couple lines. He's like, "I just want to go back into my quiet, dark room and be left alone."
Right.
I haven't seen the sun since 1972.
Every line kind of meant something for sure. That was like one of the first times I was like, "Oh, okay." Like Jim Murray's like he's cool with even doing like this. I got it. Like we can do whatever we want. Like that was.
I think he played two characters. He was Harlan Atkinson as well. Yes, I think
he might have been.
He might have been. Yeah, he might have been. Yeah.
I mean, there were so many characters in it. I was literally just DMing pure, parody accounts that I'd never even heard their voice before. I just assumed that they were like a man, and just said, "Hey, can you record this on your phone and send it to me?"
It is funny that like. I never spoke to her. It's funny that Steve's wife was doing the scenes with me, and you just had her do it like at the apartment or something at the house.
Yeah, I don't want to remember much of my wife asking you to kiss her.
That's who it was. That's who it was.
She was one of the most talented vocal artists in the entire show.
She was great.
She was really good.
There's a
Holy shit!
It's like a line, I forget it, but she's like, "Can you like?" Isn't it basically like looking me in those Cullen eyes when it's something like that? It's so.
So she said, "No." She says, "Come over and kiss me." No one kisses like you, Cullen.
Cullen is such a douchebag. Cullen is such a douchebag.
How long did it take for you, Steve, start to finish? Like Kirk coming in with this, like, did you come into the studio one day with this idea and then just got it made, or how long did that whole process take you?
I told Steve I was going to do it. I went up and wrote it, which took a couple of days. Like it was like 25 pages of dialogue. Like it was long. And I said to Steve, basically like I always do, "Yep, here's 25 pages of dialogue. Just like, all right, make this happen." In addition to the 3-hour podcast we're doing every day during the pandemic, go make this happen.
Yeah, I mean, once he sent me the script, I did a remarkable thing. I printed off every page and then used every single page
and read it
for the content. Yes, I read the entire thing. Every single page printed off. And then just I made a list of all the characters that we would need and kind of like diagrammed out who could do what. And then once I had everything recorded, it was just a matter of, putting it together. And I mean, fortunately having the script made it really easy because it was just like, assembling Legos basically.
Sounds extremely efficient and organized, Steve.
So you guys had done so we reviewed this a couple of weeks ago. You guys had done the Hammer already as well.
Yeah.
So was this something like that you were thinking of doing? Because you also had a commercial in this of the Hammer.
Right.
So you guys brought back.
I love stuff like that. Yeah, I love stuff.
Yeah. Steve, we reviewed the Hammer. Steve, you were awesome in the Hammer.
The Hammer was much harder. The funniest part of the Hammer was the bloopers because Kirk just couldn't resist himself from breaking character.
I would do like Mike would say something and I'd be like, "Well, that doesn't make any sense. What do you?" Mike, Mike, an improv master, would just start laughing. So, but I love things like I love the idea of like doing like the Hammer universe exists within the Cullen universe, which exists within like. Cullen would be listening to the Hammer while he was driving around. Like Cullen would know those guys. Like he, Cullen was probably on the Hammer as like a guest or something. At some point. Like I just
Mikey,
shit like
Mikey
that.
B.
You're right. Shit like that I just love. So, yeah. So like I said, when I wrote it, I hand over to Steve. I also wrote it in a way that I knew it would be easy to sort of give parts out to. It wasn't, I thought that was a pretty simple part of it. I thought.
And then Kirk, in regard to the Hammer, how much of that was scripted? That was a question that came up
None.
in our review.
Zero. Okay. Storyline. Like I was like, it was basically like, hey, we're the shows. Because if you remember at the time, like a lot of our show was just mocking those shows. We were very into that at the time. So I was like, let's just do it one day. And I said, I think we talked about it a little bit. I was like, all right, Steve, you're the exact opposite of who you are. I'm going to be like, basically like Maddie, or kind of like the older host who's kind of seen it all, and he's got the young whippersnapper sidekick, and then that pretty much was pretty easy. I don't even know how long that episode was. We play a bunch of songs, so it was probably
there's several songs. It's well over an hour. Yeah, and Blind Mike ends up being gay halfway through.
Right? Yeah. We just kind of we did. Yeah, Steve was
a card carrying liberal.
Right.
Yep.
Right,
Simply Steve was complaining because Whole Foods wouldn't take his reusable bags.
Right. Yeah.
We had a couple of like War of Roses canned bits that we tried, but other than that, it was pretty much just
right. That didn't work.
Yeah, it was just like improv. And I mean, we probably recorded for 3 hours and ended up putting out a 1 hour 15 episode.
Definitely, yeah.
So what was your feelings over the backlash of some of the Minifans over this episode, though? Like, I remember on Twitter, it was like a firestorm, to be honest with you. There were some people who really hated it.
It's a compliment because it means people care about the show. I have no problem with it. Because I remember saying at the time, like, we took a swing. Like, if you don't like it, trust me, next week, the week after, the week after, the week after, the week after, you're going to get exactly what you want.
No, we didn't. We didn't just take a swing. We hit a home run. I mean, if they didn't like it, they're retards.
Yes, it's my favorite episode ever. Like I said at the start, like I have no, like I don't do much of this anymore. But to understand like how, like great that episode is, like and how different it is than any other. Look, you might think other podcasts are better. No other fucking podcast in the world would ever do that. Ever. You might not like it, but no one else is doing that. No chance.
And I quote, I went and listened to the very next episode, and you start off the first 3 minutes calling yourself a genius.
Absolutely.
And the greatest podcaster alive.
Totally.
For pulling off that episode.
Definitely.
So if anyone wants to know how you feel, just go listen to the very beginning of the next episode.
Trust me, I feel, like I always say, like if things should make
damage to the roads.
What is that? Is that you, Steve? You got some
breaking news.
Oh, what do you got? Mike comes, Mike goes, Gus is here, Coleman's here, Dave's here, Steve's here. There's one constant. So like, that's you probably figure it out. So, but I also, like I said today on the show, I should say, like, I'm really happy and proud that like Steve's still part of the family. Dave's still part. He's on the show today. Coleman and Gus, everybody's still around. So, and if we did something like that again, they would all be in it. Like, was Colleen in the one we did this summer? Oh, yeah. Obviously he's producing the show still. Yeah, Colleen was part of the Colleen was obviously he fucked it up. He was part of the production for
Was he in the original one?
I don't think he
didn't
was.
hear his voice.
He gets Carano mentions that his ex-boyfriend was named Colleen.
Colleen. Yes.
Right. And there's a Colleen reference. Yeah. He's not, I don't think he's in it, Steve. No?
No, I don't think he was in Cullen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely grew a deeper appreciation for this episode going back and re-listening a couple times.
Same.
I think part of it might have been at the time people just didn't get it because maybe they just didn't understand that Cullen was actually the opposite of himself in the episode. That there was some
right. And honestly, I just don't like. I don't care. Whatever. If people don't get it, they don't like it. That's totally. I'm not going to get somebody to like something they don't like. I figured out a while ago. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's completely fine. I thought it was a great episode. And we killed ourselves on it for a couple of weeks, and it came out like I couldn't have been happier when I heard it. I was like, this is absolutely. I love the commercials are great. Everything's great.
Chris Clemmer's Johnny Carson.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
That's actually one of the funnier ones with Ed McMahon in the background yelling out different shows on the Kirk Minahan network.
Right.
Yeah, you had a Tri-State running in there. You had Death Wish Coffee. You had the construction company. And then the one about building fences next to Murchison's house.
Oh, right. Yeah, because we actually had to get real commercials into it.
Yeah, we did.
Right.
It still had to monetize the episode. Of course, they were all in retrospect. They were all free ads that the Barstool sales department was making us run, so that they could get kickbacks.
Yeah, of course, naturally, yes.
Although Dana Katz himself does the Milton read, though.
Yes, I was shocked by that re-listening today.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's an actual, like, I think it's
an actual. Yeah,
that's funny. I didn't know that. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess Cullen could have done it, right? I mean, he would go there for his duds, I guess.
No, I think Bill played along because he kind of knew what we were doing and got us one of the Dana ads that they run on like EI, I think.
Right. That's right. That's funny. That's right.
And you became super canon at one point, Kirk, because you did I think it was Simply Safe, and you did it in Cullen voice, and then you said in Code Kirk, whoever the fuck that is.
Whoever the fuck that is.
Yeah. We did Code Cullen as a one-off special. But, the Barstool people, imagine trying to explain that to the fucking salespeople at Barstool.
Yes.
Yeah, forget about it.
Good luck.
All right, Danny, what else you got?
I think that was the big stuff. I do one line that I really enjoyed, though, is when you're confronting Irv on his completely fake career. It sounds like you're back in front of your childhood home because he starts reminiscing and you say, Irv, this is Sumac Street, not Memory Lane.
Right. Street I grew up on. 12 Sumac Street in Billerica is where I grew up. That's right.
Great deep
how did you explain it to Harry when you're doing the lines? Because he had, he went back and forth with you there. Did he just think like you were crazy? Was it part of like a project? How did you explain it to?
I was like, it's part of the show. He was excited. He was like, what? Probably he just turned 8 when we did it. So no, I think he was excited. He was, yeah. So I must have done that with him, Steve, right? They just did it on my phone.
Yeah, I think that was just a phone record. You just said you sent me a couple of them.
Yeah. No, I just said, and same thing with Kate. I was like, we're just doing this. Like, I didn't get the specifics because how can you explain that to an 8-year-old? But I was like, we're just doing this. Like, it's for the show, and like he was laughing. So yeah.
I got one more.
I do like love, like when Harry's been on the show, or even Keiko. Like, I love that 50 years from now, if he wants to, he's gonna be able to show his kids and grandkids, like, hey, Dad, your grandpa did this. Like, it might sound crazy, but you can hear Harry was a little kid with his dad, and like I think that's that I made sure that was going to be Harry because I thought that stuff that meant a lot.
Did that get a little emotional when you say you're going to be all right, kid, at the end?
No, it did not, Daniel. Let's not get out of control. It's a fucking call. It was don't ruin your good Puppuccino's vibe.
and
I can't believe the wife let it. Yeah, I can't believe the wife let him out. Anyway, no.
Well, it was a business dinner.
There you go.
So my last little point here, and David, you can take it home. The second to last ad was DEC advertising the Predator Poachers show, which is basically McBait.
You've seen NBC's To Catch a Predator. Now, you're about to see the next generation of reality TV. Hi, I'm the producer of Predator Poachers, a new series where a citizen helps the police to take dangerous pedophiles off the street.
I'm going to ask you one time, who are you here to meet?
On the surface, it may seem hot and sexy. Pedophilia is never hot. It's wrong.
Is this the first time we've ever done something like this?
He's doing this to protect innocent children from sickos, not to get the beautiful hairless boys to himself.
Have you done this before? And be honest with me.
It's a citizen doing his best to partner with law enforcement to take the scum off the street.
I really wasn't going to do anything.
These people are not the victims of hypersexual boys coming onto them and begging for adult meat. They're committing criminal acts. They are the worst of the worst. They are adult men doing wrong things. Predator Poachers coming soon to streaming video.
Good call.
A little piece of foreshadowing there.
Yeah, full. I mean, if there's one thing that the Kirk Minahan show has been curious about from the start, it is basically child pornography and morning radio. So we managed to combine the two, and Kevin Cullen, the three, into an episode. DC handing the perverted role over to Justin with Mick sort of as the bait has been a nice bridge in show history. Yeah.
And I have one more inside show reference callback. Who were the filibusters to you growing up?
What's that?
Who were the filibusters to you growing up?
The band.
They were the bands that Cullen plays in. So was that random, or were you like a wedding band?
If you're paying attention, David, to the few, when I was making fun of that guy Rob the other day, Surviving Barstool, the band that Rob had in my mind was
Oh shit!
Yeah, man. Like I play in the Filibusters.
Oh my god!
One of the novels I had started working on in a band, and it was about a group, and they were called the Filibusters. I've always thought it was a good, like, pretentious name for like a band who thought that they were being kind of crazy. Like,
perfect.
It is. It really is.
You know. So that's funny. I didn't remember that, but I said that the other day about Rob. If you go look it up, I was like, yeah, man. And I got my garage band the weekends, the Filibusters. We never made it, but we're doing the best we can, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's Ackerson. Jim Murray says that he still has the video from the Murphy wedding, and he plays it every once in a while of the Filibusters playing. It's an underground tape.
Right. Jesus Christ. I should go listen to that episode, but I can't listen to myself. I'll go find the script.
You guys got anything else? I think we've taken up enough Kirk and Steve's time.
Yes. Agreed.
All right. Kirk, thank you so much for coming on. I know this was, after today and doing 5 shows this week. This is a lot.
It's good. I know this is an episode that, like I said, I don't think about much, of course, but it is my favorite. I don't know about you, Steve, but it's my favorite episode we did. So you're just cruising along now.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the Hammer better. I'm sorry to say that. I thought the Hammer was
second
funnier
only to the
overall.
Case, it is a masterpiece. There'll never be another podcast like it.
There you go. He's on delay, folks. I get the Hammer's more fun. The Hammer's more like
yes.
Yeah, for sure.
It's more improv. Like you get to see where your brains go.
Right. But this is a good look into my brain, this episode. If you want to read the script of Cullen or whatever, this is like a full. I remember I was like, I'm going to stuff a million references in here. There aren't even, some of them you guys won't even know. It's just, I'm just going, this is it. I'm just vomiting this fucker out. So
there's some really deep ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I can, yeah. How many voices are people that aren't part of the world anymore? A lot or no?
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, DEC, Blind Mike's groupie. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Jerry's uncle. Does Jerry's uncle still call in?
I think he does under like other names once in a while. I think.
Yeah, he plays Cornelius McGinty, the IRA guy who's coming back for revenge.
Yeah, Cornelius was my dad's name, and Mike McGinty. Mike McGinty, I went to high school with, a buddy of mine in high school. So yeah, I threw those names together.
Oh wow! So you did deep cuts.
All the names mean something. Yeah, for sure.
That's the most fun of writing a script is the names, I would say.
The thing I always suck at. So this one was good. I was like, oh, good. At least I can just do like names of fucking people that
It's kind of like what Greg Polar said he was going to do and just put all Minifan names in there, right? Kind of same idea.
That's true. That's exactly right. Yeah.
So I would just say, Kirk, thank you for coming on. Appreciate you. And please release the Plymouth footage. Like, I think I can speak for all Minifans. We would just all love to see the next episode.
Tell you what I'll do. If this can work out, I don't know. I'll make the pledge here if I can. The Friday night before the Portland show, wherever we are, maybe we'll put it up on the screen there. Although we did it last year at Friday Night Portland was a fucking disaster, right? Wasn't the sound of that one?
Yeah, it was Cullen was in charge.
It's hard to hear.
Right. Yeah. That was really, I think the sound was the worst thing that happened at the bar that night, as I recall. So yeah, it's fine. The sound was assaulted, and so Jesus.
Oh my God, what a way to end it.
Oh yeah.
All right, Danny, you got anything else? John, you guys got anything else? I think we've taken up enough of his time.
Yeah.
Let the man go.
All right, boys. Have a good holiday.
Thank you, Kirk. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kirk.
Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.
Take care. Thank you.
When it touches your lips, you suddenly feel home again. It's rich, milky lather, coats your tongue like a welcoming embrace from mother. Its smoky, pungent scent stays on your lips long after it's gone. I'm talking about Mama Giri's cream.
And plans on making me no protection.